going to do a quick mic check so we get started here. Can you guys hear me in the back okay? Too loud, not loud enough? Check, check. Okay, perfect. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules, especially on a Friday afternoon. Probably the last thing you guys want to do is sit through a preview on a Friday, but we do appreciate you guys coming. My name is Jack Muller. I'm the Workstream Manager for Supply Chain on the Enterprise Project team. And real quickly, I just want to show a quick show of hands. Who here has not heard of Workday or the Enterprise Project? All right, one person. All right, that's okay. That's good. That's good. The reason I ask is I want to make sure that we're tailoring the preview to the specific needs of the audience here. So it's good that most of you guys have heard of Workday, so that's good. We don't have to dwell on that fact when we get up to the buying experience. So before we get started, real quickly, we will not keep you guys here till 4:30, I promise. So hopefully everybody's excited about that. And if you need to use the restroom, out the door to the right, the bathrooms are right there. So I just wanted to drop some of those housekeeping items to you real quick. To lead us off today, it's my privilege and honor to introduce Hal Muller, who is our Chief Supply Chain Officer at the Medical Center. And he will be sharing a few words with you guys real quickly here.
That work okay? Not loud enough? Thank you, Jack. And I want to start off, thank you, Meredith, by pointing this out. I wanted to be clear, I had nothing to do with scheduling this on a Friday. But I did want to start off by giving you a little bit of background on myself. I did 20 years in the Navy, 5 on active duty and 15 in the reserves. And we basically had a World War II era ERP system then. So you can imagine how efficient that was. I left the Navy and joined Ford Motor Company, worked there for 16 years. And they had an in-house ERP system. So it was, as good as they needed to work in an automotive environment. From there I did 5 years in private equity. And every time we did a merger and acquisition and assumed some new company, there was always a new ERP system that came along. We had the luck, I would say, at that time of using SAP, which is arguably one of the premier systems out there, nationally and internationally. And then finally came in healthcare and used Lawson and PeopleSoft. And I say we're on PeopleSoft version 8.0 Noah's Ark here. And I would argue that I have no idea what a good ERP system looks like. And I don't know that anybody does. But I would say you sure know it when you see it. You know a bad one when you see it because things just aren't happening. And the Medical Center, our whole goal is based upon delivering on that core mission of the 3 legs of the stool. And for me, and my whole team is focused on making sure how things get onto a purchase order. And you can think about that sounds pretty simple. You have to set up vendors, you have to source vendors, you've got a lot of work that goes into just the idea of creating a purchase order and buying something. So what goes on a purchase order? There's so much that goes into that discussion. Secondly, how does stuff arrive at our receiving docks? Just, again, just magic when it happens without people being aware of it. And then finally, how does stuff get from that dock to the bedside? All of those elements are baked into what we're trying to achieve here with Workday as it applies to the buying experience. So the buying experience, when you think about P2P, procure to pay, is pretty convoluted, it's extensive, and there's a lot of different threads to it. But like I said, you'll know a good or bad ERP system basically when you see it. You'll identify the bad one first. But the intent of this is to not have that happen. So with my background out of the way, I wanted to talk about my journey with Workday. My journey with Workday started in August 2015. I've been here about 3-4 months, and someone said that I need to get on a plane and fly out to Oakland, California to go hang out with Chris Devine and a few others to talk about this company called Workday. And that decision was made. We went out there, we saw the acorns of what might occur and become our new system. From there, when we came back, the Enterprise Project was created, and I started seeing a lot of superstars depart my team and end up on the Enterprise Project team. So Jack, Lauren, Chris, Ashley, I think she's back there somewhere. Zach was gone for a while. Brent Jones was taken. But we had a lot of people disappear. And I said that, as I look back, that was an investment. It was an investment in our future. It was an investment in a system change that's of critical importance. And it's also an investment in a culture change. And when I think about that, the investment in a culture change, you might say, really? An ERP system is going to change the culture? And the reality of that is that I think you might have to watch this space as the next year unfolds. But if you think about where we are as an institution, we have 40 plus, maybe more, separate institutions across the campus that all use PeopleSoft, but all tweaked it a little bit to make it their own unique thing. And so we have pockets of everybody doing it their own unique way. And as we talk about implementing Workday, we're going to standardize the processes, we're going to standardize the way we do things, who does things, get to a very systematic methodology. We're going to come up with one singular source of truth, and we're going to do it in a best-in-class backbone system that everybody should be doing it basically the same way. And so when you start talking, using that word one, you can start realizing that that does affect a culture change of sorts. So all that investment of the people that we put up front, all those superstars that joined the Workday team, etc., they were the investment in the future, but that whole investment now shifts to you guys, everybody sitting here in the audience. So the investment now has to focus on the doers, and we still have the job to do, which is to get product from vendors and deliver it to bedsides. And over the next 9 months, as we start ramping up this process, we need everybody here to peak at that moment when it's we go live and implement the system and turn it on and still get everything done that we need done. So that's going to be the fun of moving forward on this. I did want to talk to you about just the fact that as we launch Workday, each of you are going to need to be able to demonstrate some key things. You're going to have to demonstrate your adaptability, your flexibility, your creativity, your willingness to change, and your, I would say, determination to get it right, because this will be a significant change in how we do things. And so on top of all that, I think one of the most important traits we're going to have to demonstrate is our willingness to help our neighbor, because change is not easy. Some people are much faster at picking up change than others. Some people are going to become those fast adopters and those get to understand the system really well, really fast, and others aren't. That doesn't make anybody better or worse. It just means that people are, different skill set for picking up the changes. So you're going to have to look to your left, look to your right, and help your neighbor so none of us struggle. This is a once in a career opportunity. In all my past experience, we never tried to change the keel of a ship while we were at sea. And that's basically what we're doing with the Workday project. The Downtime project is significant, and I certainly don't expect to see this happen again in my career. You will all remember when you were here for this event as Ohio State University switched over from PeopleSoft to Workday. So think about it from that perspective. I think it's important for each of us to be all on board, all pulling on the rope in the same direction, and looking forward to the future. So thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Hal. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you. Second, I'm having trouble with my mic. All right. All right, can you guys still hear me okay? Check. All right, cool. All right, as Hal said, yeah, the common theme that we're going to start getting into as we move into Workday is this concept of one ecosystem. And you're going to hear that term quite a bit called ecosystem. It's the Ohio State University ecosystem. And what that comprises of, will comprise of, is actually the university, the health system, our physicians practice group, and our health plan as well. So all of us in one instance of Workday, performing our functions, sharing the same data, sharing the same attributes. Data governance is going to be pretty key. So I wanted to spend a couple minutes with you guys today and just talk about what is Workday. I know a lot of you guys have heard the term Workday based on the hands that did not raise up in in the room today, but what I wanted to do is kind of help set the scene for what you're going to see today from a user buying experience. So we are moving to this system called Workday, right? We're in PeopleSoft, as Hal said. It's 8.0 Noah's Ark, whatever we want to call it. It's customized. We've made it fit our business the way that we wanted it to fit. And how is Workday different than PeopleSoft? Well, Workday, first and foremost, is a cloud-based system. Cloud-based just means that it's not on-premise. We don't have the opportunity to change or customize the infrastructure of that system, much like we can with PeopleSoft today. It's owned by Workday. Workday manages the infrastructure. However, what it allows us to do is there's a high degree of configurability within the system to allow us to configure business processes to fit the needs of our business going forward. Okay, so with that configuration, that's how we're able to achieve differences amongst the different components of the ecosystem going forward. Health system versus university versus OSUP, so on and so forth. Okay, and we are taking the opportunity not only just to implement an ERP system, we are looking at all of our business processes that would touch into the ERP system. So how do we do things from an inventory management perspective, from a physical perspective, like what do our shelves and our rows and our racks look like? What kind of business transformation do we need to do as far as, who are the units that need to keep inventory versus who shouldn't keep inventory, introducing new methodologies as it relates to some supply chain functions. The benefits of Workday for Ohio State, we have this opportunity for continuous improvement at least every 6 months. So there's an enhancement that comes out with features that Workday delivers, which is unlike PeopleSoft today, right? We are primarily the drivers of change in PeopleSoft because we take their out-of-the-box system and then we customize it to fit our needs. Workday allows us some enhancements and through a process called design partner groups. When we see things that we would like Workday to fix or we'd like Workday to enhance, we bring our requirements to them. They create a design partner group and then prototype and working with other customers, we have the ability to be at the table with Workday to help create our future business processes within Workday, which is really exciting. In addition to the twice a year enhancements, Workday does push service releases every Friday. So we could take some enhancements on an off cycle that would normally be part of one of the 2 enhancement period windows throughout the year in one of those off-cycle service window update time periods. So it's not just twice a year. Those are when the big pushes come, but we also have the opportunity to take them if they're ready in between those two sessions. The other thing that Workday allows us to do is become more mobile. Right now with Workday, with PeopleSoft, outside of using other third-party systems or other integrations to other systems, we're really tied to a desktop. So a lot of things are done at the desktop level, pounding keys on a keyboard, that kind of thing. Workday offers us the ability to be more mobile, some more point of view scanning opportunities, doing receiving and inventory counts and stuff like that native to Workday. Also creating requisitions and improving requisitions. Some of those capabilities are also available from a mobile perspective. One of the biggest benefits for Workday is the data analytics that's baked into the memory of the system. Everything is real-time transaction driven. So as transactions are happening, those values are already being populated within any data reports that's within the system. So if you, at any given moment of your day, say, I wonder how many requisitions have been created for, a supplier, for a given supplier, and what that dollar amount is, you'd have the ability right away to do that. The good thing about that is you don't have to have another system layered on top of that and to go pull this complex data out. It lives right there in the system. And then obviously what we're trying to do, or not trying to do, what Workday allows us the opportunity to do is because it is an integrated system, or what's called an integrated system, with our HR friends and our payroll friends and our finance friends, we have the ability to look at a lot more transparency across the board and within our own business processes as well. So much like PeopleSoft today, your activities in Workday will be dictated by the roles that you're assigned based on your job position with the university. Just to give you guys some feedback, I started the project back in August of 2016. I've been along for the ride for most of it, and even when Hal was talking about when he first got involved in August of 2015, I was actually ahead of Hal with the scoping and the scoring effort between the companies who submitted a request for proposal. So I've been in this journey now for largely 3.5, almost 4 years, living this every day, day to day. So I've seen a lot of change in Workday. So I wanted to take some time and go through the agenda and just talk about the different components of what you're about to see today. The first thing that we're going to start off with is we have a couple other of our teammates going to come up and present some different segments. The first one is change. We're going to talk about what is changing, what's not changing, and then we'll give you some tools and some information on how you guys can prepare for the change. The second piece of it, which is just as important as the demo, like we want to get into Workday, we want to show you, give you a sneak peek of what it looks like in Workday to do some of these functions. Now what we're going to focus on today is just the on-catalog and the non-catalog spend, okay? And I want to preface this by saying we're going to be using a demo tenant, so it's not, with Workday and it being a cloud platform, this is basically a grounds up build and design. So we're not taking an out-of-the-box solution and making it work, we're actually building it as we go. So we've all been introduced to a new term on the project called iterative, and it's iterative nature of the project. So we build something, we test it, we look at it, might have to tweak it, build another piece of it, test it, might have to tweak it, and keep building. So we're still in that build phase, but we're entering the test phase right now because majority of the system is built, about 85% of it's built. What you won't see is the finished product. So we get out to the marketplace, you may not see pictures for every item that's out there, but you will see some items that have pictures on there because that's what we've done to this point, right? You might not see contract tie-ins to some items, but in other items you will see that. You won't see all of our suppliers out there, but you'll see some of the suppliers that we do have set up out there. So, but we will walk you through the new marketplace, kind of give you a preview of what it looks like, and then we'll talk about special requests after that. And then finally, we'll save some time at the end of each of these segments too for questions and answers. So if you guys could just think about your questions, and as we run through each segment, at the end of each segment, we will stop and let you guys have an opportunity to ask questions, and we will try to get you as many answers as we can give you. If we don't know the answers, we'll go find them, and then we'll respond with the answers when we send out the meeting minutes and all the materials. So all the materials will be pushed out to you guys at some point when we're done. All right, so you all met me. I see a lot of familiar faces. I want to thank Nikki for keeping our O'Brien streak alive at 1,152. So I appreciate that. Also with me is Jamie Claypool, who's our organizational change management analyst, and Jamie has been an integral portion of or part of our team in charting these impacts, identifying how you guys are going to be impacted by all this change, and putting a plan together to make sure that you guys are prepped and prepared for go live. In addition to Jamie, I have Lauren Reed, which some of you may know Lauren, and maybe a lot of you know who Lauren is. Lauren, actually, like myself, was at the medical center at one point in her career and has now joined the project. She is our business analyst for procurement, and she'll be leading you guys through the demo here in just a little bit. So I've talked about some of the notes. It's not a final marketplace look, but what we want to do is just get you guys an idea of how it works with Workday and how the processes are going to flow in the future. This is definitely not a training session. We're not here to train you guys. We just want to talk through at a high level what the demos look like and what the business processes and how they're configured. So, and then like I said, after each segment, feel free to ask questions. We will, for the stuff that we can't answer, we have a parking lot over here. We'll write it down and we'll get you an answer back if we can't answer it live. All right, so if I haven't bored you guys to death or to sleep yet, do you guys have any questions for me before I turn it over to Jamie to talk through change and the change impacts and the plan to get you guys prepped? Question in the back.
What's the effective date this is to come out?
Okay, great question. Her question was, what's the date that we're going to deploy Workday? So we are going live around July 1st, 2020. So it coincides with the fiscal year. Now, are we gonna be in Workday during processing July 1st, 2020? No. A couple days after that, we expect to be in the system doing things. Another question?
Are we keeping AppR as like a scanning method, or is it gonna change with Workday?
So the question was, are they keeping AppR as a scanning method, or is it gonna change with Workday? What I can tell you from a receiving functionality, from a par count functionality, that'll all be in Workday. It has similar capabilities to AppR.
Are we gonna do enhance it, or?
Not necessarily. The Workday platform actually runs on iOS or Android, and as long as you have like a consumer-like device, which I believe you guys are using C51s, the Zebra Mobile, those are perfectly fine with Workday. We're actually using those two to test our mobile capabilities, so good question. Yes?
Will the items that are currently in PeopleSoft materials be vendors and products be transferred to Workday, or are they going to be transferred based on a purchasing history?
Okay, so the question was, are the items and suppliers in PeopleSoft today going to be transferred into Workday, or, we're going to look at like purchasing history and stuff like that? Yeah, we actually have conversions that we're testing right now. We've actually used some of those conversions to push suppliers and the items out of PeopleSoft in now. Are we going to get more items? Probably in the time before we go live. Yeah, there'll be more items than what we have, and we may sunset some items depending on purchasing history, but the goal right now is just to push everything out of PeopleSoft into Workday and get that set up so that we make sure that you guys are off and running whenever day one starts. All right, any other questions? Good questions, like them. Perfect. All right. It's, again, my pleasure to introduce to you guys Jamie Claypool, and she's going to walk you through the change impact portion of our program.
Since they're changed, it's a little harder for us ladies. We don't have as many things to pin it on, so Lauren's got to. Trust me, it's better than the podium mic. The podium mic was a little not so. 9 times out of 10, you don't need it until there's somebody in the lobby that, pushing a car, doors slam. Am I on? Yep. On and running? All right, sounds good. Thank you. Well, as Jack said, hello. My name's Jamie Claypool. I'm a change analyst supporting supply chain. I come from a larger organizational change management team consisting of communications, marketing, stakeholder engagement, and learning and development. And it's the goal of my team to empower those who power the university to be prepared and ready to move through change. So Lauren's going to detail for us some of those literal changes in the system. And I'm just going to take a few moments to talk to us about how those changes will likely feel when it comes to day-to-day operations, kind of back in the office sort of thing. And then we'll take a look at how to prepare between now and go live to be ready for those changes. It's nice to kind of start out grounding ourselves in what's not changing. Let's start with the familiar. That what's not changing is that we're still going to have the ability to get what we need, when we need it, where we need it. That large organization, the demands for goods and services are imperative, and this team takes that to heart. So nothing's changing from that aspect. But a lot of positive changes that you will see coming your way, so that we are moving to that single marketplace for the entire university ecosystem, campus and medical center users. And from an end-user perspective, it's a very intuitive user interface, so it should leave users with a very positive experience on the front end, and then on the back end, we're going to experience a lot more insight and transparency than we're used to. So no more, where's my rec in the process now? Where's that PO in the process? Or even looking post facto, how much have we spent on this item in the last 60 days kind of thing. So you're going to have a lot more of that kind of information at your fingertips. So those are the kind of changes that you'll kind of feel day-to-day operations-wise when back in the office. As far as getting ready for that change over time, I want to try to illustrate for you the patterns that the project will use to help prepare users. So this is Journey Map, and what it attempts to illustrate is for your average end user, your average requisitioner, over time between now and go live, the kind of actions they'll probably see coming their way to help prepare them. That this is also mirrored on your handout, so you have them. What I hope you do is that you kind of go back to the office when everybody starts asking you questions. Well, what's training going to come? What's happening? How am I going to get ready? You have something at your disposal there to be able to answer those questions. What I'm not trying to do with this is tell you every single action that's going to come your way to prepare. But again, just trying to communicate those patterns of things that you'll see. that this map does not take into consideration other hats that a user may wear too. So for instance, in my illustration here, let me introduce you to Vanessa, that she's the supply coordinator. That, let's just say for instance, maybe Vanessa had some HR responsibilities. That, of course she'd have other actions that would need to address that. And I'll just talk to you about a few of the supply chain specific ones, looking at her needs from the point of view of a requisitioner, from an end user. So that being said, let's take a look at 9 to 12 months before go live, Vanessa would attend a user preview session to learn more about the experience of buying. At 6 to 9 months before go live, Vanessa's change coordinator, she's going to facilitate a staff meeting where the college change team recaps the big changes that they can expect in their area. This change coordinator, if you don't mind a show of hands, who knows what I'm talking about? A change coordinator, you've heard of this person? All right, not too many, that's okay, we'll talk about that. Do I have any change coordinators in the room, by the way? Hey, we've got at least 2. All right, awesome. So we'll talk about these guys a little bit more here momentarily. Again, still at the 9 to 12 months before go live, Vanessa reads in a number of campus-wide publications that policies are open for comment, and she's able to go online and read about how those policies might impact her. So text-heavy, lose my spots along the way. Looks like we are at 0 to 3 months before go live. Vanessa's going to be able to begin to attend some virtual instructor-led trainings on topics that are important to her role, such as the marketplace, invoice approvals, and those will shortly be followed up by lab experiences where she can go and practice her newly acquired skills. And those will be organized by either her local change team and her managers. And the idea is there that, I don't know if you've ever experienced like I have, in the training, everything worked. Like when I had the trainer there, when I was watching it, I was feeling like, yeah, everything works, that's so easy, I got it. And then you get back to your desk and you're like, nothing, it doesn't look the same, nothing's working. So the idea here is that the lab's going to allow you to log in as yourself at your desk, or at least back in your unit, maybe in a collective space everybody can get together. And with nothing else than your sign-ons and the people you normally have around you, can I really do this before go live? So we don't get to go live and you're left there on yourself giving it a try. So those would all be organized locally. So again, at the 0 to 3 month time frame, Vanessa's able to continue building her skills. She's going to have videos, job aids, FAQs, and even in-system assistance within Workday itself that's based on the page that she's on, some helpful text that helps her also complete different tasks. So those things can all be found in Buckeye Learn, same way you were able to register through for here today as well. And the hope is at go live that Vanessa's feeling ready to go, but if nothing else, that she knows where to go for help when she needs it as well. And even post go live, that there's an organizational structure that's being developed to provide continuous support activities as far as ongoing trainings and just the interchanging nature of Workday, making sure that we keep up with users and they have the tools that they need to feel prepared. So my attempt with this illustration is, again, just to get you familiar with the kind of patterns and the time frames of the kind of actions that will be coming your way to get us prepared. A few final thoughts to leave you with, that my map also did not take into consideration the larger marketing campaign that will begin here in late fall, and that's going to bring us things like giant bus-sized billboards and lobby signage, that lots more Workday coming your way. As well, this change coordinator, let's talk about that person. That on your handout, bottom right-hand corner, is the Enterprise Project website. On there, just in general, go there and take a look around. But on the resources tab, you're going to find a lot of good information, especially on this change coordinator person. This is your new best buddy for all things Workday. Look at your unit, figure out who your local change coordinator is. These guys, even if they don't know the answer to something, they know how to help find the answer. So this is definitely somebody to make ourselves familiar with. As well, off of that same website, the project website, you can look at summaries of the changing policies. And then if you want to dive deeper, it'll help you dive deeper into those changing policies. Same section, that resources section, has a number of different recordings of different aspects of Workday if you want to learn more. They're called core concept sessions. So let's say you wanted to learn more about how Workday reporting works. You can watch a video on that. Let's see, what else? Workday security rules, there's some information about that. We've had a number of deep dive sessions in things like supplier accounts, inventory. We're gonna post our sessions from that on there soon too. So there's a lot of information already out there, so that website can come in pretty handy. But if there's information that you are just burning to know that you haven't seen yet, ask us. We're happy to talk to anyone who will listen to us. Get with your local change coordinator. You can email us direct through that same website, and that we'll try to give you answers, and we'll come out and give demonstrations of things that your unit really wants to see. So definitely reach out. As far as preparation for the changes coming your way, any questions you want to ask of me? Please.
Since you got so many users going to be incorporated under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Will that increase the time the system response?
Processing time. Like in
Yeah.
PeopleSoft, there's that red processing.
I was just wondering how that's really going to affect the speed of how we accomplish or.
With a cloud-based system, I don't think that that's an issue by any means. Is that any more technical description that you want to give than cloud-based system?
Yeah,
Doesn't
no,
hurt anything.
yeah, I mean, for cloud, one of the things that we do have exposure to is we have 7 different data centers throughout the United States now that have our data positioned for us to pull. So when you're talking about transactions and stuff like that, we're going to get into some performance testing here in early spring that's going to help us confirm that. But we are seeing some slight delays just right now because we're in our demo tenants and there's a lot of work that's happening, like building configuration wise. But we don't anticipate once the business processes are configured and we're off and running, we're going to have a lot of lag or any lag at all in the system. So there's some tools they call resources at Workday that help us with speed and agility with our systems. So it's a combination of things that work together to help prevent.
And just ask clarification, it almost sounded like you were asking about like support, if there's somebody that you need to reach out to for support. We were talking about system
I was
performance.
actually talking
Okay.
about the speed of how much, come with the system and it moving.
That's a good one. Thanks. Yeah, what else do you think about?
What's Workday's downtime record?
Workday's downtime record. I have to go to my technical experts on the other side of the room. Technical experts.
And I don't have the exact figures right now, like I don't know what the percentage downtime is, but I do know largely you'll see us currently today in a lot of our systems where they're going to be down from like Saturday afternoon all the way through Sunday, and Workday's pushes average about 3 hours. So significant improvement in how they're doing updates. They do have a marketing campaign that they've started to get to 0 downtime, but like everything else, that's going to take them a little bit to get to, but we're seeing on average between 3 and 4.5 hours for them to do these service updates every Friday night when it's late in the evening. So,
Unexpected downtimes?
unexpected downtimes, again, with the 7 data centers, if we have a problem at one of the data centers, we populate into the other data center and we're off and running. I mean, it's seamless to us as the end users.
I just want to dovetail with her question. So when they do the updates on Friday, that's what you were saying, that they pushed out, will we have advance notice or will we be in the middle of putting in an order and all of a sudden the system go down?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, there'll be a communication strategy around those, much like there is today with any scheduled downtime sessions.
Notifications for downtime.
Yep.
Good. Good question. What else are you thinking about? Okay, you ready to start seeing some systems? All right, well, thanks so much. And Laura and I are going to do a little presto change-out, and she'll get us the background information. Turn me on.
All right, can everybody hear me? Okay. So like Jamie said, my name is Lauren Reed. I see a lot of familiar faces in the audience. I was a buyer at the health system for a couple of years, and also I was in the analytics role within supply chain. So I was over at the health system for about 6 years. Prior to that, I did work for the university. I was an office sponsored program buyer over there. And then I was a student also employee here at the university. So overall, I've been with the university for about 13 years. So, and then my entire lifetime, I've been in the supply chain. So today we're going to go over the buying experience. This mostly focuses on the requisition process within Workday and future state. This won't go over everything, so there's other areas like inventory, supplier accounts, which is your accounts payable. There's sessions out there that are being recorded that we're gonna be pushing out, that you can go to those sites, that those recordings, review those demos that have happened, and you can find out more information in those 4 areas. Today, we're going to talk about buying experience from an end user point of view. So this highlights the chevron that basically tells you that the end user will start within Workday to create a requisition. This isn't very different from what the health system does today. On the university side, they have a front-facing system called eRequest, and then everything gets populated within PeopleSoft. On the health system side, I believe everybody usually creates requisitions within PeopleSoft currently. But there would be one way to shop. So if you're creating a non-catalog request for a special item that is not in our marketplace, or if you're creating an item, or if you're purchasing an item off the marketplace, that's one way to create a requisition in Workday. You have one starting point, one task. We'll still be allowing obviously the use of inventory and part counts, those types of things, that won't be going through this extensive requisition process. So it'll be kind of similar to current state. When you submit those requests in the system, based on the certain criteria that is built into the requisition that you're trying to request for, or the items you're trying to request for, if it's a certain spend category, certain dollar thresholds, certain additional work tags that are on there, the routing might change just a little bit. So if you're trying to procure off a project for items or a new equipment, it'll have to route through a project manager usually. If the dollar threshold exceeds our dollar threshold, it might go up to your next level of approval. So these are all things that have been built into the system, so nothing has to be ad hoc for those type of things that keep on going through the requisition process. On every transaction that is non-inventory, non-coming from inventory, on the health system side, a cost center manager is required to approve those particular transactions. And then with the requisition process, it also allows transparency. So you'll see that after the requisition is created and it's successfully submitted and goes through the whole process, it automatically builds into a purchase order. What that purchase order allows you to do, and it allows you to collaborate and have in one particular area all your related documents. When I say related documents, I mean things like your supplier invoices, I mean your receipts, any ASNs that come in, everything is housed with that particular purchase order. So you don't have to go out to multiple different systems to find things. They're all listed right there. And I'll show you that at the end. So behind the scenes, you can see this is a typical chevron of what a supply chain process does. So a requisition is created. So with the requisition being created within Workday, I will show you also how you can see who's up next to approve this particular transaction. So you can see if it's pending with somebody, how long it's been pending with them as well. Then the PO is issued to the supplier, and during this is where I was talking about the related documents, all attaching to the purchase order. So it allows transparency in the system. From there, a purchase order acknowledgement and an advance ship notice or receipt is created. Just based on each supplier that's in our system, we are trying to move towards more electronic data interchanges, which allows more easily and efficiently flowing of data between systems. So if it's orders dispatched out to the supplier via EDI, they get it quicker, they can turn it around quicker, and then they submit an invoice quicker back to us. So it allows us to accomplish our payment terms that we like to negotiate with our suppliers, as well as allows visibility into the system of all those different related documents. Then the invoice payment is processed, and then the settlement run and the supplier is paid. So this is very typical, standard, high level, yes, process of supply chain that we're going to be going through. So we're going to start getting into the system. Is there any questions before I get started? Yeah.
So with the new system, where would the buyer be? I guess what I'm asking, is it cutting out the buyer, or where would the buyer be throughout the process?
So the process is very similar to current state. So if you buy it off the marketplace, those things have already been negotiated and contracted for. So there's no need for a buyer at that particular purpose. So it allows you to do your fiscal approvals and then go out the door.
So it's
now for non-catalog special requests, where there is a need for somebody to intervene to make sure that we are purchasing from the correct supplier we're not buying off contract, those types of things, the buyer will be inserted into the process.
So it's kind of eliminating a step or two, it's kind of.
Well, it's kind of similar to what we do current state. What's happening is that the difference between current state and future state is that the requisition will be submitted by the end user, then go to the buyer first to help initiate those transactions. Then they help, facilitate either a quote or the correct pricing, which allows it then to go to the cost center manager to approve, and they can actually approve the actual financial transaction that's happening.
Thank you.
Okay. So like Jack mentioned earlier, just to let everybody know, these are our demo environments, so we're still building up the marketplace, we're still trying to test out a bunch of different things. So just be aware that things might be changing and could looks and feels be changing, but the overall concept is going to be trying to stay the same. I do have a question to the crowd though. How many of you did watch the Workday 101 trainings online? Okay, so less than half. So what I'm going to do today is going to go over a little bit basics of what Workday is in the landing page, and then from there, then we'll start going into more of the dining experience and demos. So here's your first page that is your landing page within Workday. This is where everybody is going to be coming to when they first sign on. You can see it's more configurable to us. It has a block O up here in the right-hand corner. This block O signifies your home screen. So if you're ever in a spot where you're searching for something and you want to go back to this home screen, you would click the block O. Up here is also a search bar, so you can create different things. You can search for different Google-like experiences. So if I could just type in requisition up here, it provides me with all the different tasks or reports that I could possibly do and have access to. Your list will vary differently based on your user access. So each user out here will be assigned different roles, and those different roles then provide you your access of what you can see within Workday. If I go over here to the right-hand corner, you can see this little bell. This bell is my notifications. Notifications are used for basically telling me things that I need to be notified for. So if I'm having reports run and being sent to me, it will show up in my notification inbox. If I have somebody you can actually jabber and chat within Workday in certain areas, it will show up in your notification box as well. Over here is my inbox. My inbox becomes like my work list. For those of you in PeopleSoft today who do have a work list and sometimes you work it, this will replace that in future state. Within your inbox, you will have different things. So depending on what your role is within the health system, it varies of what is going to be populated within your inbox. So if you're a buyer on the health system side, you'll see a bunch of requisitions or purchase orders that need to be approved. If you're an approver or cost center manager or financial people, you'll see requisitions and purchase orders in here as well. You could be seeing supplier invoices. You could be seeing other different areas. So anything that goes funnels through Workday then comes into your requisition, comes into your inbox. The nice thing about the inbox though, you can do different filters within your inbox, and you can customize or configure your inbox to what you need to be doing. So if I'm a buyer and I just want to look at high priority things that are coming up to the top or they've checked it, I can filter it that way. If I want to just look at my invoices, I can filter just on my invoice events and see how many invoices I need to be approving, if I need to approve any. Same thing with requisitions. So you can configure it to whatever your needs are, and then it's easily done. So you can also go in the cost center OCIO. As I clicked on it, it filtered down all my requisitions, and that had to do with the OCIO. I'm going to go back over to my home screen. You can see it brought me back to my home screen here. Your inbox over here is just a quick link to let you know that are your top 3 things that need to be done. On your right-hand side, there's also these things called applications. We also call them worklets within Workday. Depending on what your role is at the university, depending is what's going to be showing up on your worklets and what you have access to. For our purposes, procurement and a couple other different work streams, like expenses, supplier accounts, we combined our processes and put it into this requesting goods and services app. So we configured this in the system, so it allows our end users to go to one place if they're trying to do different things. So I need a request pre-approval for travel. I need to request a procurement of goods and services. And we've tried to put examples off to the sides so end users can go to one place and try to figure out where they need to be going. Instead of having to memorize every task in every area that they need to go to or favorite it. So for today's demo purpose, I'm going to be a supply coordinator, and I will need to order some syringes or gloves that is required by a new surgeon. So this is a very, I think, common scenario that many of you go through. So I'm going to create a requisition. There's multiple different ways you can do this. You can go back to the Requesting Goods and Services app and then click on Create Requisition, and it'll bring you to the same screen. We also have another worklet down here for purchases, and it allows you to connect to supplier websites or create your non-catalog directly from there. For this purpose, I'm just going to create requisition. And you can see it brought me up the task of create requisition by just typing in partial words. For this purpose, it's defaulted me to my company, the health system, and I'm the requester, and the currency is USD. This will all default in based on your user. For this purpose, I'm not going to use a requisition type, and we're not asking usually our end users to know what requisition type to put in. These are more meant for your buying and your procurement specialists to assign requisition types based on what you're procuring. So I'm going to hit OK. When I hit OK, I'm then brought to this landing screen. So it allows me to then select two different options. You can see that there's a request non-catalog items, which is a demo that I'll do up next. So those are your special requests, things that are not found in the marketplace. And then I have a Connect to Supplier website. This Connect to Supplier website is where you want to go shopping for your marketplace items. So things that are on contract, things that you can buy through vendor, your punch outs, so like your Staples, your Fishers, your B2B links, those types of things will be out there. And then as well as your hosted catalog, so things that are that we're trying to procure, so your list of screws or nuts and the bolts, those things are things that you need in the hosted catalog. So I'm going to hit Connect to Supplier website. And from here, it's just another landing page where we're just going to connect out to our marketplace at this point. Like I said before, while this is connecting, we are still in our demo tenants, so a little bit of lag time right now, but as time goes on, it will actually pick up. We're going to wait to the end, but I'll enter while it's loading.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so the bell for notifications, will those notifications also be connected to our right to our Outlook?
You want to answer that question?
I'll take that one. Yeah, so the question was, is the notifications that Lauren was showing you and the bell up the top in Workday, are they gonna be synced with the Microsoft Outlook email? The answer to that is yes or no, depending on what your role is, right? If you're gonna be somebody that's in here all day long, every day, probably you may not choose or elect to configure it that way. The story really is it's up to you guys as to what you want to configure for. It's very flexible. So if you just want like approval, notifications, those type of things, you can do that. If you want notifications for everything in the system, you can do that too, right? So you may not find it useful if you're going to be in here, 99% of your day is going to be in here. You may not find it useful to do that, but cost center managers, I could definitely see them wanting to configure, notifications to hit their email inbox for approvals and for reviews and stuff like that. So very configurable, allows us the opportunity to do it if we need to or if we don't. So
Thank you.
good.
One thing I'll throw out there, the same question came up yesterday when we were talking to university folks. The benefit of doing the Workday inbox is if a task goes to you and somebody else, because you have like a backup thing, if the other person responds first to that task, it retracts it from your inbox in the system here. Whereas if you send the email, then obviously you wouldn't necessarily know that somebody else had done that.
Alright, so now that I'm out in the marketplace, this is going to be our new marketplace in the future. Like I said, we're still standing it up. Things might change, buttons might change, looks might change, colors, those types of things. So this is the first look of what we have configured already and what we're using for testing. So you can see that this populated here. This is my landing page within GHX Procure. So you can see you can search by different items up here. Search by description, manufacturer part numbers, customer and item numbers. So this is your PeopleSoft numbers and current states, which will be where your Workday purchase items and future state, and other different areas. Over here on your left-hand side though, it allows you to dig deeper your search parameters. It also allows you to create lists within here. So yesterday I did a demo for the university and I did a Blackwell list because I was a user at the Blackwell at that time. So if you go into my list up here, you can see that I created a favorites list and it basically shows all the different items that I have favorited. You can also use this for items that are being repeat that you don't have in inventory. If I keep on scrolling down, you can see that you can narrow down your search by different suppliers. So I can type in Marsha's Buckeyes. If I click on Marsha's Buckeyes over here, you can then see the 5 different items that populated within my search. So it allows me to search within each supplier.
Lauren, can you order me 100 cases of those Buckeyes?
You can get them on the cheap.
And get them delivered now.
Urgent, overnight. You can also search by manufacturers or your product spend categories. And then down here by supplier, by contract number. The most relevant for users are probably going to be your suppliers and your manufacturers. Over here on the left-hand side also is my round trip suppliers. So these are your round trip suppliers. So like Fisher Scientific and its current state. I think I can't remember all the different punch-out suppliers, Staples, those types of things are in your punch-out suppliers here. So for today's purpose, I'm going to search for a syringe. You can see that I have 136 items. So I want to order this syringe, this particular syringe, from Fisher Scientific. I'm looking through, and then this looks like the one that I want to purchase because I have it on my shelf. If I open the attributes of this item, you can see that it has a short name, a long name, shows you hazardous if it's latex free, what kind of product category it falls into. Then it also populates an unspec code. These unspec codes will be used when I bring this item back into Workday. This will drive your future state spend categories. Another item that I need to order is a glove. So I'm going to clear my view, piece my item up here. And the particular glove I happen to know the part number for. So I search the manufacturer part number. You can see it provide me with a glove. It's a surgical glove and it comes in a box. So I'm going to add these to my cart as well. If I go over to here, this is where I begin to check out. You can see my 2 items I added to my cart. Within here, I can increase the quantity or I can delete out the item. If you happen to not know what you want to purchase, you can clean out your entire cart from there. So this is all I want to order for my particular new surgeon, so I'm going to hit submit. As this is submitting, what is happening is that we're going from our third-party marketplace vendor back into Workday. And all the additional attributes and information is going to be brought into Workday and populate on the requisition. So now that I brought back into Workday, you can see my 2 items I added in from my marketplace procure. If I look through these items, I can see that I have a description, supplier identifier, so these are your part numbers. And you can see the spend category that populated. Based on the unspec value down here, this range fell into these particular spend categories. So this allows our spend categories then to be used throughout the requisition process. What this means to you on the back side though, is that account posting rules, those are tied to your general ledgers. These are the things that are going to be driving your general ledgers in future state. So we're focusing more on what we're procuring and not why we're procuring it. If I happen to forget to add something, I can connect to supplier website and go back out to GHX and bring additional items back in. For this process, I'm going to just hit checkout. So as I get checked out, I'm prompted to my checkout screen within Workday. This is just making sure that I verify everything that is correct. So making sure my addresses are correct, my chart fields are correct, and I'll go through each one of those. So right now, my user, I'm set up to sit at Blankenship Hall. This is connected to my HR profile right now. So if you're ordering on behalf of other people, you can change your deliver tos and change it to the correct ship to, deliver to at that point. But since we're an integrated system, it's connected to your profile. So I know that I want to send this item to this room number. So as you can see, as I entered in room number S634T, which is at Rhodes Hall at the Medical Center, it defaulted to 410 West 10th Avenue, which is the main shipping dock at University. So we're in Workday, we're building out all these different linkages. So when it's shipped to, delivered to at Dodd and Rhodes and Doane, those types of things, it automatically defaults to the actual shipping address of Doane Hall. So therefore there's no issues of where it should be going to. We are working through that currently, and we're working on all those linkages. So I'm going to hit next. On my next screen, it is mostly information. So you can see that I have a health system company, I'm the requester. I'm going to ignore the requisition type because I'm a requester and I don't really need to know it that much. I have a sourcing buyer, I don't need to know that as well. There's memo to suppliers, so if there's anything additional you want to put in here, so sometimes in the next example I'll go through, we'll attach a quote. You can put a quote number in there. You can say expedited, those types of things within the memo, it'll go out to the supplier. You have an internal memo here as well, so if there's anything you want internally with your cost center manager or somebody to review as you're pushing it through the requisition process, you can put those comments here and it won't go out with your purchase order. So I'm going to hit next. Here are my attachments. You can drag and drop files or attach items. We will show that in the next demonstration. And if I go to next, this is my line defaults. So this allows you to default particular information to each of the particular lines. So the requested delivery date. So I can default next Wednesday to all the different lines that I have out there. So if I have a 50-line requisition, then I can default the address or the ship to delivery date for all 50 lines. Same thing with suppliers. So if you're doing a special request and you are doing 50 lines, you can default a supplier for the particular, all of those lines. What I'm going to go down here is copy from my work tag. So on the next screen, it would show that the cost center that's being charged is the OCIO. That's who I work for. So that's the department that I sit with. For this purpose, I'm ordering materials, so I'm going to do a default work tags. When I click on this, you can see that the cost center OCIO populates. This is the cost center which I am under. So for this purpose, I'm going to do cost center 99165. When I put that in, you can see that all the other cost center or the balancing unit fund and functions all defaulted in. So it allows that combination to be put in the system, so then you don't have to memorize all those different combinations. It is automatically at your fingertips. If you happen to be on the university side or you have a project, and you want to put in a grant number, it would be over here in these additional work tags. And if you happen to put in a grant number over here, all the other cost center funds and functions would default also where they're attached with that particular grant. So again, it allows you the combinations to be correct. And I chose to use default work tags because then this will populate on all the different lines, all my 2 lines that I have on my requisition. So I'm going to hit next. And this is the last page. This is where I review and submit. Just make sure that everything is fine that I'm ordering. So it populates all the information that we went through above. So your shipping information, address and currencies and dates. what I wanna do, I wanna look at my lines, so I can see I have 2 items of our goods and an item description. So I have a glove and a surgical, and I have a syringe, some supplier identifiers. Here are my spend categories that go with these particular items that I'm being ordered. You can see also now that I have 2 suppliers. So within Workday, we are allowed to requisition. You have multiple suppliers on one requisition. What happens on the backside is it creates multiple different POs. So you have quantity, your unit of measures, your boxes, your unit costs, and extended amounts. You can see that my requested delivery date of 10/16 populated in here. You can also see that my address delivered to populated in here as well for both lines. There's cart details. And then basically our cost center and functions. So if you happen to be splitting your costs between multiple different cost centers, you can do one line and split it multiply. So what I mean is that on the university side, there's a high instance where the university is split between a fund or org and an actual grant. So this allows them to split that particular one line transaction between 2 different costs. So you can split it by amount or quantity. So if I did amount, you just have to put in your different, oops, I meant to hit plus. You can just put in your amounts. So you can put in $15 and then whatever the remaining amount was over here. And then you can add your cost centers and your balancing units. So it allows you to split it multiply. For this purpose, I'm not going to do a split funded transaction. And like I said, the rest of it is just your more cost center base. You have a save for later function. So let's just say you're working on something and you're not able to complete it right away. You can save for later and then submit it in a timely manner. But I'm going to just hit submit. As I submit, you can see that the approval by the cost center manager is needed and up next. The reason for that is because this buyer is not needed on this particular transaction because it was in the marketplace. So if I scroll down and I go to my process, you can actually see who it's pending with next. So even though it said Adam Engel up next, you can actually see Adam Engel here. You can see his information, give him a call if you need to actually have him expedite this particular order. And then if after that, after Adam Engel approves it and it goes on to another, well in this case it won't, but if there's multiple different people or multiple different steps, you can see where it's pending at any transaction. So you can go back into your requisition, go to the process and see who it's pending with. So you can make sure you follow your transaction all the way through. I also just wanted to show you a quick report that shows you how we link everything in Workday together and how it's nice and bundled together. So if I go into my home screen, and if I scroll down and I go to my Purchases Workbook app, right here we have a couple out-of-the-box reports. So this is requisitions. And when I click on it, it's actually only my requisitions. So these are the ones that I submitted in the system. Nobody else, just me. So I'm going to change my company because I submitted for the health system. And I'm going to change my date. You can see on this particular report, there's multiple different parameters that you can put in here. You can see the different statuses. If you know the requisition number, you can put it in here. If you know the requisition type or suppliers, you can put it in here as well. So it allows you to filter on multiple different areas. So I'm just going to hit OK. As I review this report, I can see that I have a couple different requisitions I submitted earlier this week. You can see that I have a couple in progress, I have one in draft, and I have one that has been successfully completed. Successfully completed in Workday on a requisition means it's been fully approved and it's been pushed into a purchase order or a stock request, depending on what we're ordering. Within here, I want to look at my purchase order that is 981. So I'm going to click on it. If you ever see these little ellipses next to any of the documentation. It allows you to do previews of each of the documents, so you know what you're looking into before you even click on it. So I want to look at this purchase order. So this is an overall purchase order, and this is how it looks in Workday. So you can have your companies, your suppliers, your document dates, the total amount that's out to the purchase order. You can also see your payment terms, your shipping terms and methods, and different contacts over here. Then I go down to here on the line levels. You can see the line levels look very similar to what it looks like within the requisition process. We'll take questions in just a moment. You can see that I've ordered one, I've been shipped one, I've actually received one, I've been invoiced two. So you can see it right at your fingertips what's going on. If I keep on scrolling over, you can see here, it's called business document lines. Oops. In this particular business document lines, you can see all the related business documents. So if there's an advance ship notice that went with the purchase order, it's here. If you have a purchase order acknowledgement, it's here as well. Receipts, your requisition, and then my 2 supplier invoices are showing up. So if I go into this particular receipt, I can actually see when the actual receipt date was. So you can see that it was 10/8, and I haven't received my product yet, so maybe I need to call down to distribution and see what it might be. So it allows you to have information at your fingertips. And it allows you to go directly back to the purchase order as well. So if you want to see any additional information, they're all linked together, and it's attached to the particular purchase order. So this is how you purchase within the marketplace. Our next session, our next demo will be up on how to do non-catalog requests. But we're going to take a break, but for right now, let's take any questions that might have right now.
Does Workday solve the issue that currently exists in e-materials with EPAL silo restrictions? So for example, a manager reports up to Dan Life and Ambulatory Services, but also is responsible for a cost center that reports up to Amanda Lucas, cannot approve both those cost centers because they roll up to different people? Exactly, different executives?
I don't.
So I would say that the way the approval structure is going to be set up is kind of outside of supply chain, because the cost center manager technically is a financial role. So I would say it will be different than current state. There shouldn't be that limitation, but I don't know that we probably should take that as an action to get a better answer.
And I have submitted that to somebody as well.
Okay.
So I was just hoping you guys would know.
Who is it that you reached out to?
I don't remember. I got so many questions I don't remember.
Yeah, we'll try to get an answer.
I do have a couple others, but I can give other people time too.
I know there's a question in the back.
Is the information in Workday, is that exportable to like Excel and other formats?
You can see right here, it's actually exportable. Most of everything, especially reports, are exportable. Reports can be scheduled to run, those types of things. So a lot of times you can export to Excel, or you can export to PDF, those types of things. Be upfront.
Is the UNSDCSC, is like gonna like replace like the PeopleSoft numbers or our customers?
No, so the customer numbers, I think you're referring to PeopleSoft numbers, they're like 5 digits or 6 digits long. They usually refer to a particular part. Those will be replaced by purchase item numbers that are in Workday.
Will they be the same numbers or what?
So what we're actually doing is we're converting in the legacy, the old PeopleSoft numbers behind the scenes, so they can still be referenced for the kind of the bridge period, but it's assigning a new number at the same time. So the system is actually going to be smart enough that if you use the current. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So the question was, are we going to be using the same PeopleSoft item numbers in Workday? And the answer is that we're going to be bringing those numbers into Workday to be able to be referenced. So if that's the number you're used to using for searching, you can use that. The system will help you find that item. But then it's also assigning a new Workday generated number as well. And then if you use the manufacturer number or the supplier number, all of those things can be used to find the same item or the description, whatever makes sense.
Yes.
You were putting in there, like, under the acknowledgement need to have all documentation, anything to do with the actual requisition or purchase order. Right now, our vendors are sending acknowledgements through shipping, okay, we received a confirmation, we received your order. And then we received notification from them that we are shipping your order, all through email. Is it gonna take whoever's receiving these notices to manually put them in these acknowledgements, or are you setting up something for the vendors to send it to, like, some type of email where it's gonna be like attached to them, or is the person who's receiving these notifications gonna have to manually put them there?
The ones that will be auto-generated are through EDI, electronic data interchanges. So if a vendor is set up on EDI and they're pushing them in, they will automatically be put into Workday. As for the manual ones, I can't help with that, it's just how it is.
Well, no, I was like, well, are we gonna be responsible to put them?
You don't have to, I mean, if you're the end user and you know that it's coming, I mean, you don't have to, but
Okay.
if you wanna put it in there, and.
No, I didn't know if that was gonna be a requirement.
No.
That's all I was asking.
No, it's just, this populates based on like, more or less, the electronic data interchange to our larger vendors that are pushing in notifications all day long. Those are the ones that are gonna be pushed and created in Workday more likely. Meredith?
What's a balancing unit?
I'm gonna say that's your, I don't know what it is actually, but if there's 4 different financial things and they're being replaced, so like those are your chart bills and current state.
Okay.
So there's, org, which is being replaced by, cost center, and then there's 3 other ones based on what,
I saw
being-
fund, and I saw that's still there.
It is fun.
It is fund?
Yes.
So it's
No,
okay.
there's a fund, there's a fund work
unit, fund and PeopleSoft will be balancing unit in Workday,
So it was in 2 spaces placed
from a
there.
financial perspective. And the fund, the greater fund, the FD 300, is just like Ocean's health system company, basically.
Okay.
I think the university has a more need to break these down further, but I don't know for sure. I'm not financial, so we can check on it again.
Is the system going to be aware of order minimums for vendors that are in the marketplace?
So Workday does allow it, but we're trying to see how we can configure that within the marketplace as well, but Workday does allow minimum orders.
So right now, you're, like if you pick a cost center, it drives your shipping address, it pulls your shipping address. It looks like in Workday, you have to enter each separately, is that correct?
That is
like
correct.
on separate, okay, I just wanted
Your,
to.
or
make
your
sure I
funds,
understand.
your chart fields or your work tags that are out there, so the ones that are your cost center, plus your shipping address, those are based on your actual HR profile. So you might order from multiple different areas, so you might have to change the cost center and the shipping location. But it'll always default on where you actually sit in the university.
Since PeopleSoft numbers are going away, currently stuff that are not special references, we just scan barcodes and then figure out how many of each we want. Are we gonna have to change all the stickers or barcodes?
Right, you want to?
The answer is yes, we will have to change all the barcodes. However, we will be able to do that in advance, so we have several months to do that.
Yeah, push in the back. Anywhere. I know I'm going more up front, so I just want to make sure.
This is 2 parts, and I think you just demonstrated this, but just to clarify, so when you're placing an order, you can make orders with multiple different vendors within the same request?
Yes.
Requisition?
Yes.
That's really nice. And then the second part, will you, I imagine you'll be able to do internal orders on here too?
Yeah, so we are, that's another process that we are working with, and it's another team that called customer accounts. So they are onboarding all those different internal vendors right now, and then we'll start populating and working with those internal vendors that are more high volume and trying to put them in the marketplace. So like your Uniprints, those types of things in the marketplace, but you'll still be creating a requisition within Workday.
So this will completely replace eWorkWest?
Correct.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, one of the other things that we're introducing to the medical center side is MyQuote on the university side. So it's also like a punch-out catalog, like when you're going out to Staples. So some of their services around campus are like hour driven, like they'll give you an estimate, it's, you know, I need an office moved, right? It's, you know, give me a quote on to move my office and I've got these pieces. They can come back to you and say, oh, it's gonna take, you know, 2 guys, you know, 50 hours at $100 an hour, and we can build a requisition straight off of that into Workday. So think about facilities and projects and stuff. I see some facility folks here too. We're actually gonna roll that out platform-wide so that everybody has the availability to do that as well, so.
Yep, so as a health system person, can I now enter requisitions for university cost centers?
If you have access, if your job description dictates that you have dual access, and when we talk about dual access, it'd be like, you could be in the College of Medicine, but also a health system employee, and you've got dual responsibility, right? Yes, you'd have access to both of those cost centers to create requisitions on their behalf. But if you're just a university or a health system employee with no responsibility for anything on the university side, then no, your profile, your security rules would only dictate as such.
So then I would have to continue doing cost transfers?
Give me your scenario real quick. Give me a
I
scenario.
order, I don't know, office furniture for people in McCampbell, and they have a university cost center. So right now, I'll enter that using 92101 and do a cost transfer to that.
I think you're part of FOD right now, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think FOD, shared services, I think would be part of that. Brian and I were just talking about this. I think shared services would be part of that team. That would be, we would expect that you would have access to all cost centers because you're ordering for both sides of the house all the time. But we can take that back to kind of, it's not up to us necessarily, it's based on your reporting profile.
Okay.
But we can follow up with that team just to kind of confirm what their thoughts are and what, make sure they know about the shared service.
The one that we hear the most is there's people that work for the College of Medicine and for the health system as well.
Okay, yeah.
They have access to both. Like they can go out today, they can create an e-request and purchase, you know, out of e-stores today. They can also create a requisition through e-materials and get stuff in for the health system. That's still going to stay intact tomorrow. If you have specific needs and you're ordering for multiple entities, based on your job profile, your security roles will be assigned as such to allow you to be able to order for, on their behalf.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely.
I have a question about the integration, because I'm currently one of those people, I order on university side and medical center side. So first question, it sounds like how currently the university accounts all start with a 7 and then, and medical center all start with 7, university all start with 6. Those are being like standardized across the university, is that correct?
Kind of out of our wheelhouse
Okay.
with finance.
Yeah.
So we can take that down as
Okay.
oh, yeah, Brooke's here. Brooke's in finance.
Yes, they are.
Okay. And then where I currently like would go to e-stores to buy something if I'm going out of that cost center, or e-materials if I'm ordering out of the health system like cost center, that is all gonna look like this, correct? The
Yeah.
one kind of button, okay.
Right.
Yep, I had a question. My department, we work over at the medical center. I'm in the E&E shop, so a lot of times we'll like purchase stuff for another department. So like radiology wants a new TV in an area, so they'll purchase a TV for us, and then I turn it into JJ and we do a cost transfer. Will that be more simplified? Because usually I have to email her and explain, hey, we need this transfer from this center, from our cost center to the cost center they provided. Or is there a way that because I seen you had that internal memo, is that where I could put that information in, that this is going to end up being transferred? We are purchasing it out front, or we've already purchased it out of our inventory, but it's ultimately going to go to a different cost center. And right now, it's a matter of I have to email Gerald, and then she's got to do everything behind the scenes. Is that being automated in any way?
So are you trying to order on behalf of another cost center?
Yeah, so usually what'll happen, like, for my department, I can order from the James or Maine UH or Brain and Spine or Harding. If like we got a cabinet for Harding that we ordered, we're ordering it through our cost center initially because we're going to use that in other areas of the hospital. And then they'll put in a micro project and our department will go fulfill that project, and then we'll transfer our costs to them.
So you're trying to buy upfront larger portion, then you
Right.
team out what smaller portion goes to that particular cost
Right.
center. Then
Probably in terms
it's part,
like the ISD.
Yeah, so it'd be like, I don't know, I don't wanna answer the question too much, but we believe it'll be the internal supplier, the internal delivery process, but it'll be like a journal.
Okay.
We'll get you
We'll
an
get
answer
you-
to validate that. That's in a different work group as well. It's just called internal service delivery. So we're actually using some of that functionality with our procurement processes to order internally from like Uniprint, from Tech Hub, maybe from facilities, you know, where if you guys are supplying inventory items to an internal customer,
Right.
that's the process that it would flow. You create a requisition, that requisition would flow either into a purchase order to that internal supplier, or it would turn into a stock request to that internal inventory site. Then all those journal transactions happen automatically behind the scenes. You don't have to go set up and manipulate a manual process. So if you got it and you're issuing that out to somebody else, that cost transfer, if it's sitting in an inventory site,
Yeah.
it would automatically cost transfer. If we're buying it from you, then the transactions behind the scenes would reconcile that for you on their behalf.
Okay, thank you.
One or two more questions, and I'll take somebody that I haven't heard from.
I just have a question with Workday. So there's times when like the EDI doesn't get transferred to the vendor with Workday. Will you have any kind of confirmation confirming that they received the info?
So we're still gonna use GHX as our van to submit all those EDIs, so that'll be, on the GHX side. But there's no confirmation unless they send back a purchase order acknowledgement, letting us know they actually received the product, or received the order. You can add.
It is actually set up on the supplier side, so the supplier has to set up in their profile through GHX that they wanna receive confirmation, like that they're not getting it, so it's partly our side, but they have to do the correct setups on their side through their portal as well.
Okay, yeah, we usually just email purchase orders as an issue, like, hey.
We can email Jen.
Yeah.
All right, we are gonna take a 5-minute break and then come back, and then I'll put in non-title requests, and we'll take more questions after that. Thank you. I know, guys.
That's what. Yeah, I think for Change that one, so we need more to give you that. Yeah, she's like, here, one of these work. I'm like, no.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, no way.
I know how to do that. Yeah. That's what Aaron was saying.
I would take one. I would take one. Because I have like a whole bag and then I gotta figure out how I'm gonna return it.
How big goes here?
You want to swap with the swap?
It is just maybe global reps who are the That'd be nice too, multi-step process. Yeah, and refresh. I knew that was going to show me right now. I was like, I was just thinking how to put a hard time with it. It was like looking for I have a ton What's that? Oh, that was her introduction right there. I might
So what I gotta do tomorrow is we have all the sponsors out here. I go 16 on I mean my house. These are graphic copies just get hey, my cards not working. Well, yeah, because it's on top of your office, so it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
I think I gotta make it build.
Alright, we're gonna start getting going again.
I'll give you a
Ready?
call.
Thanks, Vicky. You wanna do it?
I know you need that grant.
Yeah, I do.
Now, on the university side, this is what everybody wants to see the most, is the noise test. Yeah.
Alright, let's get settled. Here we go. I know. I want to let everybody have a reminder for everybody. If you could please sign in. If you don't sign in, you won't receive any of these materials that you're seeing today. So please sign in before you leave. Alright, so for the second half of the demonstration, we're going to go through the non-catalog request process. So these are things that you're not going to find in the marketplace. You've already done your due diligence, going out there, trying to find them. You can't find them, then you need to submit a special request. So I'm back in Workday, I'm just gonna go back to the create requisition functionality. So as you can see, it defaulted into my information again. We're at the same landing page that we want for the marketplace order as well. So it's one area, one task that you need to execute. So I'm gonna hit OK. This is where it differs a little bit. We only have two different options. We have our Connect to Supplier website, which I just demoed, but we're gonna go into the request non-catalog items. This is where you're gonna create your special request at. Just to ground everybody, this is my scenario. I'm a lab manager that's out there, and I need to order specialized beakers for my particular lab. So I have a quote, so I've gone out to the marketplace, looked for the items, I can't find the items, I've gone out Fisher Punch Out, can't find them in Fisher Punch Out. I've done my resources, and I've decided that I need to obtain a quote from my Fisher rep. So I do have a quote. You don't always have to have a quote to submit a request in the system. The supplier can be, if the supplier doesn't have to be initiated or showing up in the system to submit the actual request. So there's different things that are required, and then there's other things that are not required, so we'll go through that. For this purpose, I do have a quote. Here's my demo quote. It's not real, let's just put it out there. But it's for Fisher Scientific. I have a quote number, and I have a description and a price for the item. So I'm in the request non-catalog items, and this is the first page that I've come upon. So I'm requesting goods because they're beakers, and you can see I have several different asterisks. These asterisks means that these notes, these fields are required to submit the request. So for an item description, I'm going to use what is on my quote. You can see that they're specialized custom beakers, 12 ounces in a case of 12. So I'm going to put in specialized.
Does the system take cut and paste?
Yeah. I just feel like typing it in front of everybody right now. Specialized beakers customized. So my supplier identifier, so then I'm going to type in the number that the quote provided me. And then you can see that spend category is required here. We have gone through our spend categories and made them more user-friendly. So if I go into lab supplies, if I type that in, you can see that the different attributes come up. So you can see lab and scientific instruments or lab supplies populated. Probably pick lab supplies for this particular one. But for today's purpose, we've also created in supply chain a office use only spend category. So meaning that you don't have to choose a spend category when submitting your non-catalog request. It will go to a buyer, and the buyer will help you determine what spend category it should be going under. And these are based off the unspec codes and ranges that we talked about earlier. So the buyer would go out, work with the vendor, say this is the unspec code that it goes with, or I look in different areas, and then they would assign the spend category that is associated with that unspec code. So it's very user friendly. I can leave my supplier blank, but for today's purpose, I do know that I'm ordering it from Fisher Scientific. You can see that I can type in partial information and it populates with different drop downs. I don't know my supplier contract, and that's fine. I probably don't have a supplier contract for this particular one. If it does, it'll go to a buyer to help assign that supplier contract. I'm going to do a quantity of 1, unit cost of $35, and I want to order a case of them. You can see that you have different options, so you can type in each case, but it's all just allows you to default into one particular. Doesn't mean it's CS, CA, different ways to put it, it's just a case. I can continue shopping, but I'm going to add it to my cart. After I added the item to my cart, you can see that it populated another request form down here that's blank. So if you have multiple lines, you can enter in multiple different ones, adding each one to your cart. For this purpose, I'm just going to check out. So I'm back into the view cart view. This is very similar to what you saw in the marketplace order. So it came back in, it shows all your different attributes. If I scroll down, you can see all the different information. If I remember that I need to add additional items, I can do the request on catalog items again, or I can connect to the supplier website. But I'm just gonna check out. For this purpose, since I showed you earlier, I'm just gonna leave my blanket chip here. That's my hall that I'm at, and then I'm trying to ship it to Central Receiving 2650 Kenny Road. So I'm gonna hit next. So this is also the information tab that we were talking about earlier. I want to mark this high priority for my buyer, where he can populate at the top of his work list. And then I want to also put a memo into the supplier, knowing that it's a quote number, and then it's 789. I have an internal memo, so if I want to let anything know to my cost center manager, these are needed for research supplies. The attachments area, this is where I can attach my actual quote that I have. So I'm going to go, if you have multiple screens, you can drag and drop, but since I only have one, I'm going to select my file. So it opens up and I can select my example quote right here. And it automatically populates in. You can see that I have an external button here. Once I click this external button, this allows the quote to actually go out with the purchase order. If it's going out to our supplier portal, if it's being printed, or if it's being emailed out to our suppliers as well. It allows this quote to be attached to your actual purchase order. So you don't have to send it in separately. It also allows you to add a comment, so you can then attach another quote number if you wanted to. And I'm going to hit next. So you can do a requested delivery date again, like we did earlier. If you hit a 50-line rec, you can do different suppliers. You can put Fisher Scientific in here and default all down to all different 50 lines. Same thing with the work tags that we showed earlier. And then I'm going to hit next, and this is my review and submit page. So that at this point, I just need to review all of my information to ensure it's correct. So I know that it's an item description. That's what it specialized beakers that are customized. This is a Fisher Scientific number. I left it with the office use only spend category. Supplier is here. Quantity, unit of measure, and unit cost. If I want to add a requested delivery date on the actual line, I can do it here as well. On the actual line, you can then change any of your ship tos or deliver tos in your cost center, in your work tags. If I scroll down to the bottom, you can see this is where I have my attachment as well, so you can review any of your attachments. And then here's the activity stream I was noting earlier. So you can say add a person and say, please review my order, or this is I need to order and replace an item that might be outside of your area. It allows them to be notified that you're requesting these goods or services. So again, if you're trying to do a 50-line rec or something and you need to save it for later because you only got 25 in, you can save it for later at that point. So I know everything looks good, my cost center looks good, and all my fund and functions look good. My address says, I'm going to hit submit. When I submit, you can see that the order changed from a cost center manager on a prior request to a buyer up next. So this allows it to go to a buyer. The buyer will review, see to make sure that we're ordering an item on contract, or if it's off contract, so we're allowed to, and also make sure they're getting the most competitive pricing. That's also where they would then change the spend category to the more appropriate one. So if I go down to my details and processes, you can see that up here, it just says buyer. That's because in this particular process, it's pending multiple different people. So that's the non-catalog request process. Are there any questions regarding this? Yes.
So I know this question has already been asked, but I just want to clarify for the special requests, we can make more than one special request when we get from vendors at a time, or do we have to do it one at a time?
She wanted to know, the question was, can you do multiple vendors on one special request per line? Is that what it is? The system allows you to do that,
Okay,
yes.
just making sure.
Because the vendor is assigned at per line level. And then when it breaks out into multiple different purchase orders based on the vendor.
My question is, I see, is that a print symbol up there on the right, so I can print this out, is that correct, or is it browser dependent?
No, it's a print symbol. You can click and download, you can see it.
So then the second half of my question, for my manager, I usually, when I put a rec in, I'll print it out to give him a copy of it so that he's aware that it was submitted. Is there a possibility that this system would allow me to email him a digital copy of that instead of printing it out every time?
So you can also do the notification or the @ symbol that I did in the prior screen. You can say at your manager, I'm submitting this request. So then it allows him to have the notification that you've submitted the request.
Okay.
If he's not part of that approval process.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Yeah,
He's not part of it.
yeah, he's not part of
So
that.
this allows you to save paper and stay green.
Yeah, that was what my question was. Thank you.
Yes.
If I need something shipped as soon as possible, other than like thinking what date I need it, do I need to do anything else? I need like same-day shipping or?
No, so if it's on a special request, I would click the high priority button, so then the buyers and then can filter on the high priority requests that are coming through.
How would the cardinal medication orders be incorporated into this? Doesn't have the cardinal.
So through Cardinal Order Direct, Cardinal Pharmaceuticals, I'm assuming, like off their website, that process will remain the same. It's a back-end process that we're working on that will change, so it won't be a purchase anymore, it'll be a supplier contract that we'll be invoicing against. But your upfront ordering off of Cardinal Direct will remain the same. Unless you're going through pharmacy, I'm gonna look at him. Yes?
My question's related to the last example in this one. Are you gonna have multiple delivery addresses pre-programmed, so when we get, I know we used to be able to put in the cost center, now we put in an address or it populates our primary cost center, and you're telling us that we need to change the shipping address, but we used to have the DP001, DP002. Is there some way that this is going to make it easy for us to say, I want this order to go to this address for this organization number, but this order goes to the DP002 former 002 address? Is there an easy way for us to do that?
There's no linkage that I know of. I'm gonna bring it all cussed here a little bit. I think she's asking if there's a way to set up favorites, I assume, like between cost center and.
I have multiple cost centers, but then, for example, Mitchell is in one cost center, but there's an address at 700, there's an address at 660. How can we easily pick which one to go to without having to retype these items every time when we order?
We can park and lot it.
We'll get you an answer back.
Yes.
Or if you want to put it out in the next newsletter, that's fine too, just add it to your questions for a rainy day.
Yep.
Okay, great.
So the one thing I'll throw out is that we're gonna be taking, like, you used the DP example, and that's really predicated on you knowing the cost center. And what we're trying to do, the locations, they're all the locations in Workday, basically. And so what we're trying to do in Workday is bring those locations in from SIMS, which is the Space Information Management System, which is just a source of truth for all buildings across all campuses of Ohio State, regional campuses included. And so when you're trying to select the deliver to, if your default is not correct, you could type in the building name and the room number, and it'll pop up that way. So you could say Dome 250, and it'll pop up.
So everything would populate without us having to line item all those details each and every time.
I mean, if the requisition is all being delivered to the same place, then yes, you could just set it at the header as you're checking out. If you have to override it for multiple lines, that's where you still may have to go through, like maybe you set it at the header level, and then you just go through and change the ones that aren't going to that deliver to. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll wait for the dust to settle. Just wanted to throw it out there, thank you.
Lauren, will they be able to use that request on behalf of, so that if they're requesting on behalf of someone else, it would take on their default?
Yes, but I think she also, so there is a request on when I go to the create requisition screen, you can see that in the requester here. But if I put in somebody else's information and you have access to request on behalf of somebody else, all their information will default in. So like their cost centers, their ship tos, where they sit, those types of things. So if you're an admin that orders on behalf of your VP, I'm just making up a scenario, then you can put the VP's name in there and then you can order it. It still shows that you submitted the request for audit trails, but it will say that you're procuring behalf of him or her.
Well, I know, thank you.
Can you based on behalf of cost center?
No. It's a requester, and the requester is a human.
During, putting in for services that we render, like preventive maintenance services, can you go through that, to create a requisition, or is it gonna be the same as what it is in PeopleSoft?
It follows the same very similar process. It's just that we might change from a goods to a service, and it basically is the same exact fill out form.
Okay.
How is the blanket PO process going to work?
Very similarly, so you'll create your request, and then you can actually submit a requisition type of blanket purchase order, or when it gets to the buyer then can add the blanket purchase order requisition type. But remember, we're always trying to streamline our processes and try to make sure everything's on catalogs, those types of things, and try to order off the marketplace if you could possibly do it that way.
And a lot of times when we do blanket purchase orders, I work in facilities, and our blanket purchase orders are for services rendered for the entire year.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they bill off of that purchase order all year long, and we can't do goods on the purchase
Right.
order that's services.
That's understandable, but I think overall, this is trying to streamline, make sure that if there are items on contract that are in the marketplace, try to use that first, but we understand there's always a need for a blanket purchase order.
Yeah, well, 95% of mine are blanket purchase orders because I work in facilities and I have people coming in doing preventive maintenance or repairs or whatever, so that's a big thing for me in my, putting my requisitions in. And another thing, when it comes to the beginning of the new fiscal year, and we have to put in our preventive maintenance work, purchase orders, are we gonna have to wait and do it until after we go live?
It hasn't been determined yet. We're still deciding. That's part of a bigger cutover plan from supply chain. So as soon as we have those details, we'll let you guys know.
Okay.
I have my pick. I would wait till Workday at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree,
That's what I would like
because
to do.
why put all the, and then have to.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is coming, just so we
Okay,
we
well,
are
I
working
will
on
vote
that.
to wait until after.
Okay.
Duly noted, we'll take your vote down.
Thank you.
If I wanna reference, look at that quote that you put in there, like a year later, 6 months later, do I have access to it?
Yep. The things, Workday doesn't really delete things for the most part, that's what we also found out in our testing, so it'll stay out there until it's actually systemly purged from the system, but that's to be determined at that point.
Are there, name link change, restrictions like there are in E?
There is not, we've been testing that out on how many characters, and there isn't as of right now.
If we also do like once suppliers are paid the following month, we also do like the financial reconciliation. Is Workday gonna replace e-reports and the GL reports that currently live there?
I'm gonna look at Brooke.
I can speak for the health system, yes.
Okay.
I believe that is the goal for the university as
So all
well.
those reports will migrate over to Workday. Do you know like all that historical financial data, is it gonna migrate over to like e-reports?
Yeah, so historical data will live in what they're calling the RAY, Reporting and Analytics Environment. It's still to be determined how those types of historical reporting requests will be fulfilled. But yes, PeopleSoft data will live on. So if we need to marry PeopleSoft and Workday together to get you historical trends, we can absolutely do that.
Okay.
And something you said that was key is you wait a month until to see the payments. The system is real time. So if it gets paid today, you can run a report to see it was paid today. So that's a big difference for tomorrow.
Thank you, Brooke.
How about P-card requests?
So, the health system for the most part doesn't use P-cards. On the university side, they do. They have, I'm gonna say a little bit, but we're gonna put it on the parking lot, but it's an expense basically within Workday. So if you have a departmental P-card, you order something off of it, it then goes to the expense portion of the Workday.
So no more having to put a requisition in ahead of time to get approval for a purchase.
If you're
If you're purchasing off of your supply, in your service center, are you college or?
Well, I'm Med Center, but we have, college funds that we have a P card through.
Yeah, so you have a department P card.
Yeah, so we have to, for some things, we have to put in a requisition in first. Other things we can purchase and then put a requisition in for.
We'll put you in touch with Rob and Gasson, who's a customer, or what are they called? Expenses, there we go. So we work stream, expense area that is handling all the P-card transactions.
When I send out the questions, I'll try to put some more, how to dig into that a little more deeply, maybe some contact info.
Yep.
So if you're putting in a requisition, let's say we got an order of pizza from Adriatic Goods, but it's going to 7 different places. And do we have to do 7 different requisitions for that, or can we just do one and just have it go to the 7 different places?
The system allows you to do different delivery locations on each different line. It's just whether or not the vendor will understand that those 7 different locations need to be sent. So you will probably have to still work, you can probably do one purchase, but still work with your vendor and make sure they know where it's going to. Okay? I'm gonna give it back to Jack then. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys can you hear me? All right, cool. So, sorry about your luck, but you're stuck with me at the end again. Okay, so just want to kind of summarize what we talked about today. Real briefly, Warren showed you the 2 primary ways of creating requisitions, which is nothing more than just a request to buy something, and Workday in the future. As you've seen, and I think Mickey and I were talking at the break a little bit, I kind of use the analogy. It's like, we've all bought a new car or a used car at some point in time, right? Still has a gas pedal, still has a steering wheel, still has a turn signal, still has wiper blades, that kind of thing. But the bells and whistles takes a little bit to figure it out. And once you figure it out, you get going, right? Nothing's changing here when we move into Workday except more technology advanced processing. So the things that we're used to today, like Google-like searches where it starts to suggest things as you're typing things out. I don't know if you guys picked up on it because we were going through each step of the process, but even out in the marketplace and when you're in your cart, it's similar to what Amazon does when you're picking your shipping addresses and then you're figuring out what method of payment you're going to use and that kind of thing, right? There's just a process for you to get to the end game for you to submit your purchase. So what's not changing is your ability to buy things, buy goods, buy services, have it shipped the way you want to. But what is changing is the way that we're doing it, right? So again, 2 separate instances today at PeopleSoft between the university and the medical center or the health system. OSUP, they've got practices that they're using another system called Great Plains along with the health plan. Really consolidating and streamlining that into one process and one system, just segregated by business or company, as it's called in Workday. The one way to shop, on catalog or off, you're still creating a requisition. The on catalog stuff is a little bit more automated because it's just populating based off of your job profile or your position with HR. But then when you get out there, you're dragging and dropping stuff into your cart to submit your purchases. When you buy off catalog, that's where the more manualness nature of this comes into play, where you have to tell us what you want, and then a buyer has to help you guys go source that out. And they'll make decisions on, based on a quote, or if they don't have a quote, they're going to go probably do a 3 bid, try to satisfy our compliance requirements to get you what you need as fast as we can get you to that stuff, right? So definitely the on-catalog stuff's the way to go because it's streamlined, it goes out the door pretty quickly, you get it faster, where you're relying on humans now to help you go source stuff. But we know not everything is on contract, and we have to have a way for you guys to buy stuff off of contract. So the built-in and upfront routing for compliance and review and approval. Today, you get cost center approval up front. What we're trying to do is get you the requisition information so that the cost centers, when they have their approval, have all the information that they need to make it from a fiscal responsibility and a compliance responsibility perspective to say, yep, I agree that this is needed for our business and the operation is expecting this to happen. And then again, Lauren did a good job of showing you what an integrated system can do for us, right? Just the powerfulness of being on that purchase order in Workday and daisy chaining back to any of the documents or transactions that's associated with that, right? You don't have to go do a find and a look up here and a look up there. You click on a hyperlink, you drill down, and all the hyperlinks that are in blue is actionable data. So every field in Workday is reportable. So there's a report that can be built. There's a lot of delivered reports to go find requisitions and go find purchase orders. Your boss, if he wanted to go see what you ordered for the day, he has the ability to go do that for his cost center if he chooses to. So it's giving the ownership back to you guys, the employees, to go see the things you need to see to do your daily job, to do the things you need to do for your daily jobs without having to really rely on others to do it for you, right? So that's pretty big, and we're kind of excited about that. So, okay. So again, I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask some additional questions of me if you would like. But what I wanted to make sure that I said again is I really appreciate all of you guys taking time out of your busy schedules. I know it's hard to give that up because we're all super busy. But I really do appreciate you guys coming and giving us a couple hours of your day on a Friday afternoon. I've got two things up here, and this will be as part of the packet of information that we send out to you guys. The one at the bottom is the Enterprise Project website. And if you guys have not gone out there yet, there is a wealth of data out there that helps you understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and when we're doing it, right? The one thing that I didn't talk about at the beginning is, why are we even doing this enterprise project? Well, most of us know that President Drake has released the strategic initiatives for 2020 for the university called Time and Change. 5 pillars to that strategic initiative. The 5th one being resource stewardship and operational excellence, and that's where this project falls. We are taking the opportunity to figure out how can we streamline and cut the overhead out of our processing and lack of efficiency in our processing to transform that extra time into being more strategic to go look for more opportunities to increase the lives of our patients after all, right? I mean, that's our overall mission, is to make sure that the care that we provide our patients increases the outcomes of their life. So, but I would encourage you guys, go to the Enterprise Project. There's a lot of information up there. You guys could spend hours reading through a lot of the information that's out there, but there's a lot of good information. So, to try to get you guys out of here, I will ask if last opportunity for questions, anything that you're curious about. Yeah.
I really appreciate all of the information that came today about Workday and about the process of ordering tangible type things. But if I'm correct, and tell me if I'm not, isn't Workday also absorbing like the onboarding process for new hires and all of those kind of things? So
yep.
Will a similar kind of presentation that you made today ultimately be available for those of us who are within that,
Yep.
within that responsibility?
Yep, so the question is there going to be similar fact reviews or user previews for other parts of the project? Did I summarize that okay?
Yep.
Like HR was the example. We will put that on the parking lot to get you an answer from our HR folks. I will tell you that I think that's the expectation of the project, is at some point in time, you guys are going to be more engaged. We're kind of out ahead of it a little bit and trying to get this stuff out to you as we get far enough along to show you stuff. Back to that transparency thing, right? Like as we get to a point where we're confident that we can show you stuff like this, we know it's not complete, but you guys can get the general gist. We're going to be out here showing you guys as much as we can to make sure that you guys are all in the loop and you know what's going on. So that's our commitment from the supply chain team, because we know how critical our operations are. And so we want to make sure that you guys have as much knowledge at a point in time that we can give it to you when we can give it to you. So, but we'll follow it up and when we send the stuff out, we'll get you an answer to that. That's a great question. Any other questions? Yes.
Along the same line, I'm actually from facility planning, and we rolled out eBuilder earlier this year, and we're kind of responsible for a lot of owner-related equipment. So when they were going over budgets for the last year, so we were spending, I asked about, bottom of the line or under the line, and they're like, oh, that was going to be a part of this new Workday thing. Is that been talking? Are we going to get any previews of how that works?
So we are currently working with eBuilder and the projects team to build out all those different integrations that we're doing from the supply chain standpoint. What they want to do is get eBuilder up and running this year, and we have started those integration processes with probably the past month of those design sessions. We hope to have ready for testing the next cycle, which will begin in January. So you'll probably be seeing stuff more closer to UAT, which is more in 0 to 3 months time frame.
So that's another thing that we're excited about too, right? Is we get to figure out how that works because it plugs into us also, right? So I mean, from a supply chain perspective, we're gonna be heavily linked with e-voters, so we're kind of excited to understand and learn about that stuff. Great question. Any other questions? Yes.
So for our department, we're getting a new system internally, and from my understanding, Workday is supposed to allow us multiple, so we're getting the GRC system. Will it kind of tie in, or will it still be two integrated?
Not sure what GRC is, I'll be honest with you. However, we'll put that and try to get you some information. Do you know what what do you use it for, or what would you be using it for?
Well, just kind of, I work for compliance, so we do a multitude of things.
Okay.
So say, other people have different software systems, so we're kind of utilizing this one in terms of like building our workflows and things like that to ensure all of our assignments are just in one area, so we can get it out to multiple departments that are under us.
Okay.
So from that understanding, in our last touch base, we kind of had an understanding that it was all supposed to tie into Workday as well.
Yeah, I'll have to get you an answer on that. What I can tell you from a Workday perspective, from a supply chain perspective, and a finance perspective, is Workday is going to be the system of record for those financial transactions. Does that mean all transactions in Workday are going to happen? And not necessarily will initiating Workday. Like we have some third-party vendors that we use today where it could start out there like eBuilder. I think the design for eBuilder would be, some things are going to start in eBuilder and integrate into Workday to create these transaction documents, right? So they're not actually starting it in Workday, but we're getting data pushed in from another system. I don't know if that's your case or not. So let me take an action item and go follow up, and we'll get you some sort of answer.
We don't, outside of just ordering through e-requests, we don't do a whole lot with supply chain financials, so.
Yeah, I would say if you're ordering goods and services, it's gonna be Workday, but if you're using that as to do a workload scheduling or like a work ordering system, probably if there's a financial implication to that, then hopefully it's on either finance's radar or somebody's radar, but we'll take an action item to go check out and see if there's a system disposition out for that. One of the things I didn't talk about is we have done a pretty extensive review of all the systems that are integrating with either PeopleSoft or not PeopleSoft or just exist across the medical system or the health system and the university. We found over 600 systems as a project. So, and we've got dispositions for every single one of those as to whether they're staying, whether they're going, whether they're integrating, whether they're not. So we have a tool that we can go back to look to see if GRC is in there, and I can get you a response. If not, I'll have to follow up with somebody to get you the answer. Yeah.
Jack, real quick, can I ask, did you know what GRC stood for?
I don't specifically know, but I can get that information.
But it's G as in green, R as in Robert, C as in cat, right? Okay.
Can we also have your name real quick?
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Shanessa Reese.
Okay. Shanessa.
What's your name dot number?
My name Reese, R-E-E-S, no E at the end, dot 164.
164. In the back.
How do we know if the system's gonna be integrated in or not? We have a system that's specific to our department, and about a year ago, someone spoke to me about it, trying to figure out more about it, but I never heard anything. So who can I talk to see what's going on with it?
Do you know what system it is?
Well, it's our formulary system for our ordering.
What department are you with?
Ambulatory services.
Okay.
And sports medicine also uses the same system. We kind of created it ourselves for our specific ordering purposes.
Okay.
And IT takes care of it now and updates it, and we were basically told at one point, once Workday comes through, IT is not gonna be able to do that. You need to talk to Workday to either integrate it or do whatever, and who can I talk to about that? To
Yeah,
see what's going on?
we'll get it on the parking lot. We'll try to get you an answer
Okay,
back.
I'll talk to you after this.
Yeah, that's fine. Got something in the hand. Yeah. Yep.
Just, all these systems are all gonna go live at the same time. They're not gonna have different go live dates.
Workday? Workday.
HR part, the
Yeah,
financials.
yeah. So Yep, good question. Her question was, all these systems are gonna go live together, right? Yes, we have done an enterprise project where we're bringing in HCM, we're bringing in payroll, bringing in finance, we're bringing in supply chain. Student is also part of the enterprise project, however, that's been extended for an additional 2 years, just because it wasn't ready, but HR, payroll, finance, and supply chain are all going live. HR payroll going live June 13th-ish, so that they're in Workday for the first pay cycle in July. And supply chain and finance and supply chain are gonna come 2 weeks later, around July 1st-ish. Big-ish. Yes.
Is IS gonna be part of Workday? Because I use it to like forecast needs or to petition into the system.
So we do have integrations for Epic, associated with Item Master and stuff like that. Patient refunds, things of that nature. Is there something else that you were expecting to be there that I didn't just call out?
Oh, I said, I use it for, like forecasted needs and, like putting tissue into the system, so if you get tissue, you can.
Yeah, I don't think IHES is going away. I don't think it's going to be replaced by Workday. It's going to work in conjunction with Workday.
Okay.
If that's an easy answer for you, I mean, a high level answer for you.
Yeah, integration, so when I currently order on e-stores, the vendor list is very different than when I order in e-materials like Marketplace. Is there gonna be integration between those two systems, or when I'm creating requisition, will I have to like designate between University and Med Center?
No, depending on your profile and what view you'll be able to see.
I'll see
you'll
all the
either-
vendors in that one view?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's a shared supplier file within Workday, so we're taking the two separate files and mushing them together so that there's a single one with all the vendors.
Yep, yeah, great point, and actually thanks for the additional point. So from a master data management perspective, inventory items, which are called purchase items in Workday going forward, are gonna be shared. Supplier file, gonna be shared. Payment terms, gonna be shared, going forward from a supply chain perspective. Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, this might be to Brooke, but if the accounts are being smushed together as well, our expenditure accounts, like 76331 for us is office supplies, will there be a list provided to us? Because right now we can pretty much enter things or know when we're cost transferring, where we're moving things. Are we going to be supplied with those materials in advance?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
But also, just to put a plug in for Workday, like you could start typing in office supplies and it would pop up. Like some options would pop up, so it's really handy, you don't have to know the number.
Sorry, kind of jumping on that, like currently when I get invoices, if it's on a Med Center PO, I send it to one AP email. If it's on a university PO, I send it to it. Is AP on the back end also connecting, like, or will I still have those two numbers to call and
The
kind
answer
of?
is no. You will still, if you want invoices, the invoices are still set to two separate.
Those two separate email accounts for Med Center and University. Okay.
Will we be all in the same system so you can see all of them? Yes.
Okay, but follow-up would still be those two separate, okay.
Yeah, now, what I would say is we are pulling in a lot of, on the university side, there's desperate AP departments that exist throughout the university. Those are being consolidated into central AP going forward.
Okay.
So I know when we would try to order, there'd be some vendors that would have contracts with university but not with us, and they would be on our vendor list, but we couldn't do it because somehow they didn't do whatever piece they didn't do to become a Med Center vendor. When we go to this one system, we won't have that problem anymore.
Yeah, well, so I won't say we won't have the issue. However, what we'll have is visibility into those contracts and the opportunity to have conversations with our strategic sourcing groups to say, hey, we're Ohio State now. Let's make sure that we've got the full ecosystem considered when we're going out to do strategic sourcing. So at the start, I mean, we're not going out to obviously do a big, strategic sourcing initiative to change the way that we're doing, but through attrition, you'll start hopefully seeing more collaboration between both entities and how we go to strategic sourcing
There's
events.
about 1,000 shared suppliers current state, so
Right.
that's double contracts for a lot of them, right? University contract and Med Center, so strategic sourcing does know, they have been identified, like here are 1,000 that current state we share, they have the exact same tax IDs, so the leaders in those groups have started working together in order to possibly do joint contracts.
Yeah, we just didn't have the bandwidth and the run-up time to go out before we got live to get that change around. So through attrition, there'll be a change in how we do strategic events going forward. Yeah.
And to piggyback off of her, for so I work on the med center side, so to prevent me trying to place an order with someone who only has a contract with the university, how will I know that we have a contract with them versus we do not, so that I don't select them, or will they not be in the list of selection at all?
It necessarily won't be in that list that you're gonna be able to pick from. It'll be depending on what security rules are needed for your position. If you're med center only, you'll have access to that. Will you be able to see it? You might be able to see it, but will you be able to pick it? You may not be able to pick it. So.
There's also validations running in the background, so it says combination this company with this particular company for this contract doesn't exist, so it won't line it.
Right.
Thank you.
These are great questions, actually, so, and I love questions. There's not a question that I'm not afraid to answer, so. Anything else? Trying to get you guys out of here early-ish. So again, I think you guys